Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to News Dose, and we're going to open up the week with some fun news for both Xbox and for Nintendo. We're still in the midst of the Gamers Holiday, meaning that we're still in that showcase season. Capcom has their own event incoming. We already talked about that, but now it looks like we can add Xbox and Nintendo to the list, which, interestingly, we do have some game leaks on the side of Nintendo, and this is actually very, very exciting stuff. So make sure to stay tuned for all of that, but first, I do want to thank my supporters on Patreon and on YouTube memberships. Thank you just so much for what you do, and I truly do appreciate each and every one of you. Let's go get right into things, though, starting off with Death Stranding 2. It'll be available here in just a few days on June 26th, but reviews actually went out today, and it sounds like Hideo Kojima cooked up something truly special this time. You know, the thing about the first game was that it was polarizing. It was Hideo Kojima's first game without Konami, and wasn't exactly what people were expecting. Some people loved it for its atmosphere, its story, and its exploration, whereas other people absolutely despised it and described it as flat-out boring. Well, based on critic reviews, 109 of them in fact, it seems like a lot of those complaints have been fixed here in the sequel. Allegedly, it has better pacing, it has significantly better combat, and that thrilling story that we've come to expect from Hideo Kojima. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's a completely different game than its predecessor. That's important to keep in mind here, but rather it's just a vastly better version than that experience with significantly better action, which is what a lot of people were asking for in the first place. So when you put all that together, we're looking at what's being described right now as another Game of the Year contender with a 90 overall score on Metacritic. So if you like the first game, or if you like Kojima games, well, then it sounds like this will be a must-play experience when it releases on June 26. Now, here's something really interesting. There's been a lot of discourse regarding Switch 2 game keycards, and I think rightfully so. Personally, I'm not really a big fan of them either. Now, it would be one thing if they were rare, but, you know, at least for the early days, pretty much every third-party company is making use of those cheaper game keycards. So there's right now this perception that this will be a huge issue throughout this generation. And it very well could be. We need to see how things play out. But at the very least, we now have some optimism on our side because it's been spotted that Sonic Racing Crossworlds might come included on its cartridge. Now, this hasn't been 100% confirmed yet, but Sega revealed this pre-order page for Sonic Racing Crossworlds. You may notice that the Switch 2 version has a gray transparent border on the bottom, which is actually identical to games like the Switch 2 edition of Zelda Breath of the Wild, which, if you're unaware, it's essentially the Switch 1 game and its upgrade included on the cartridge. So what I'll do here is I'll include a comparison picture on screen. On the left, you'll see Zelda Breath of the Wild with its gray banner, and then on the right side, you can see that Sonic X Shadow Generation has a white banner, meaning that it's a game keycard. So the fact that Sonic Racing Crossworlds has a gray banner, this is actually a really good early sign, and what this could mean is that completely new games that are selling for $70 might, and that's keyword here, but might come included on cartridge, or at least from Sega. I mean, we still need to see what other publishers decide to do, but like I said, this is at the very least a good sign, if anything else. All right, now let's go talk about Xbox, because we actually have two different things to discuss here. The first of which really is just more evidence that Xbox wants Steam on their next consoles. I mean, we have consistently heard this over and over and over again. And even last week, both Xbox and AMD kind of hinted at that being their future. They said that they want their next console to be an open platform. They don't want to lock their customers to only one storefront in the future. So, I mean, the signs are already there. And now you can add this story to the growing list. This was reported on by The Verge, where they said, Microsoft adds Steam games to its Xbox PC app on Windows. Microsoft is starting to test its new aggregated gaming library in its Xbox PC app on Windows. Xbox insiders will now be able to see their Steam and Battle.net games all within the Xbox app this week, making it a single launcher for most installed PC games. So, I mean, this is really just the early days of what they're trying to do. They're basically attempting to put all of these games in a single unified place, and at least on the PC side of things, that would kind of help attract more eyes onto Xbox as a legitimate place to play PC games, or at least for anybody who has games from multiple storefronts, which is honestly a lot of PC gamers by this point. And the more people that Xbox can attract to their service, that also brings more attention to their own storefront and to PC Game Pass as well. The only thing is that I think from a store perspective, Microsoft has a bit of an uphill battle ahead of them. I mean, it's very hard to compete with Steam on PC. Now, on their next console, that's a little bit of a different story, because in that case, they'd be selling directly to their fan base that's likely been within their ecosystem for a very long time. But it's a completely different story to transition a Steam user over to, let's say, the Xbox PC store. That's not nearly as likely. However, I mean, they could attract more Game Pass subscribers this way, so, I mean, that could actually be a perk for them. Now, as for the other Xbox story, both them and Bethesda confirmed that they will be at Gamescom this year from August 20th to the 24th. Gamescom is one of the biggest game showcases of the year, so, I mean, this is actually really exciting if you're interested in anything that Xbox or Bethesda is currently working on. I mean, we could potentially get some updates for some of their already announced games, and maybe even a Game Pass surprise or two. Now, at the same time, though, I'd recommend to go in with tempered expectations. I mean, these aren't usually as exciting as, let's say, their June showcases. I mean, sometimes they do have a big surprise in store, so you never completely know, but they do tend to like Gamescom for gameplay updates. They usually have a big booth with a lot of first-party games. You can go in and play them, and I mean, they do have a lot of announced games that they could potentially bring. They have Clockwork Revolution, they have Gears Reloaded, Keeper, The Outer Worlds 2. Those are all games that appeared at this year's Summer Showcase, so those could all potentially be there. And then they also have games like State of Decay 3, Towerborn, Fable, Perfect Dark, and the list just goes on and on and on. Now, I'm not saying that those games will be there, but what I'm trying to say is my expectation is more on the side of gameplay updates more than anything else. If we do, however, get news about a potential tease or a leak of something unannounced, of course, I'll keep you updated. Let me know, though, what would you most like to see from Xbox at this year's Gamescom? Now, we do have a big showcase to talk about, though, and this is actually for Nintendo. I mean, it kind of feels like there's a new Nintendo Direct rumor every single week, and I usually ignore them because they're typically baseless, and really, I'll simply leave it at that. But this, on the other hand, I'd say is really interesting because it comes from somebody that's very well respected within the community. And I'm talking about Wood from Beat 'em Ups. The one thing that I've noticed about all this, though, is that there doesn't really seem to be a lot of outlets reporting on this, or at least yet. And the only thing that I can think of here as to why that's the case is because he isn't really viewed as a leaker. I mean, he has a massive YouTube channel, and he seems like a great guy, but he doesn't really leak things, so, you know, this is a bit different for him. So maybe that's why people haven't exactly caught on just yet. But whatever the case may be, he claimed that there will be a Nintendo Direct next month in July. Based on his information, this Direct will include ReFantazio for the Switch 2, some GameCube Shadow Drops including Pokemon Colosseum, The Witcher 3 Switch 2 Edition, Death Stranding, apparently, which that will be a huge surprise. Of course, Kojima has already released it on pretty much everything else, so why not? Then they'll also announce a release date for Metroid Prime 4, which that seems fairly obvious. And then the last thing that he heard was that one more announcement will be a tease for the next Animal Crossing. So, I mean, that sounds actually incredibly exciting if all of that's true. However, it is important to keep in mind that he said that he was skeptical, but that's what he's heard. So you can kind of take this as you will. It's definitely not a 100% guarantee, even in how he explained it. So again, keep that in mind. But at the very least, I do think it's worth paying attention to, just because Beat 'em Ups doesn't really strike me as the type of person that would purposely lie. He has a massive channel for a very good reason, and he doesn't need leaks to prop himself up. So that's just my perspective on all this. But if all this actually turns out to be true, which there is a big if here, but if it does, I mean, this will be a great, great Nintendo Direct. Let me know, though, do you think his information is accurate, or Are you like him? And are you skeptical? Anyways, though, that's going to be it for this episode. But until next time, make sure to subscribe, ring that bell, and peace out.